In the beginning stages of a gender exploration, it's easy to assume that if we're someone who is questioning gender, then the goal or the desired outcome is, of course, that we need to find an answer, because that's like more or less the assumption of the questioning process, right? Questions lead to answers. And so, of course, when it comes to the gender exploration, it's no surprise that we as gender expansive people have the tendency to place most, if not all, of our emphasis on the answering or the figuring out aspect of our gender journey. And it's almost like we're operating within an unconscious assumption that identifying some sort of infallible, undeniable gender position, well, it's kind of like we just assume that's the entire point of the self-discovery process. But what if I told you that compulsively searching for answers can actually be the very thing which is keeping us from experiencing true gender peace? Like these questions like, am I trans? Should I come out? Should I transition? What are my pronouns? Is it okay to be me? Now, these are obviously important questions to consider, and it's completely normal to be asking them. But can you sense how, when we're asking them, there's also this, gut level tendency to grasp at the answers, kind of like we're trying to identify some sort of definable, defendable position that is going to help alleviate the uncomfortability associated with not knowing. And I think that this tendency is going to be especially pronounced for those of us who are feeling a certain amount of heat from our external environment. So whether that heat is coming from parents or society or from friends, when we subconsciously sense that other people are expecting us to have the right answer, then quite naturally, as a response to that pressure, we're going to end up subtly modifying, and we're going to end up placing the majority of our emphasis on having or finding the right answers, as opposed to just sitting inside the unknown of the question. And so, keeping all that in mind, I just want to offer you this proposition that says okay, what if when it comes to the gender questioning process, what if there actually are no answers? What if there is not a solution to this problem, at least in the conventional sense or the way that we've been approaching it? I'm not talking okay, you're never going to feel resolution or clarity about your gender situation. It's more like I'm saying, what if there's no carrot at the end of the stick? What if the answers you seek are actually more like energetic compatibilities that are intuitively interlocking with whatever your question is, which is different than trying to go after some sort of clear-cut, easy to present, easy to define yes or no statement and that's your answer, right? Not only that, but what if I said that your job wasn't actually to find an answer, but instead, what if your job was to become such an authentic and earnest embodiment of the question itself, that as a consequence of your openness, the compatible reciprocal match to your heartfelt longing is actually magnetically drawn and instinctually arises into your experience? So to begin, just for fun, let's linger on this notion that maybe there's no answers, maybe there's no problems, maybe there's no solutions. And as we ponder this, just for fun, I want you to consider, what does it feel like inside of the body to let go of this search? What does it feel like to just let yourself off the hook and recognize that, oh, okay, I don't actually need to find the correct answer. I don't have to arrive at some sort of answer in order to be who I already am. And if who you are in this moment is a person who happens to be unclear and uncertain and frustrated, okay, then great, just be that. But the important thing to remember is your truth, your ability to feel at home, your access to peace and compassion is not dependent on having your gender situation figured out. I mean, all that thinking, all that theorizing, all that arguing, that's just mental noise, right? So how about just for a moment, together, let's just take a deep breath and put down this entire project. The assumptions, the expectations, the comparisons. Let's just gently take the gender-associated load off our backs so that we can just relax And now that we're hopefully feeling a bit more spacious, let's see if we can reapproach this situation. But this time, I want you to consider that when a question comes from the depths of your being, then by its very nature, it's not so much a question in the conventional sense, but instead, it's a vast and mysterious portal which is guiding your attention into universal awareness. And so, instead of approaching this question as some kind of problem to be solved, I want you to use your intuitive senses in order to feel into this invitation for growth that life has placed before you. And I want you to recognize that the universe is using your gender situation as a rite of passage in order to guide you into a more authentic, more aligned way of being. And I want you to understand that your soul is being initiated into its next chapter of evolution. And as a result of that, I invite you to consider, is it possible that the most appropriate answer to your situation is not so much a piece of information that is given to you, like some kind of a yes or a no, but instead, what if the answer is found in your response to the very thing that life is asking of you? Does that make sense? Like, what if this isn't actually your question, but instead it's life's question being asked through you? And what if the answer isn't something that life gives to you, but what if it was something that you gave to life? And what if your most important job out of all of this was to wholeheartedly give yourself to the process and to completely surrender into the gravitational field of the question itself? Kind of like if you were to use your gender situation, all of its associated details, as a vehicle for discovering the truth of your being. And again, you're not doing this because you need some kind of right answer, but instead because you are committed to satisfying that soul level longing by becoming a living embodiment of the reality that your question is emanating from. And then from there, recognize how when you give yourself to the process, in turn, the process gives itself to you. And when you surrender into truth, in turn, authenticity emanates from you. So if you're questioning gender, then congratulations, because life has identified you as a worthy and prepared candidate for transformation. So I guess really, the only question left to answer is, how are you going to respond? And if you want to learn about how and why your transgender nature is actually supporting you throughout the awakening process, and it's helping to facilitate that opening, that falling apart, then you should watch this video, and I'll tell you about just that. All right, my friend, that's all I've got. I'll see you in the next one.